Hello everybody, we're going to talk about how you're going to be able to create your own bar chart in Microsoft Excel, and we're going to use a data set that we're going to find on Canvas, and we're going to create something called a pivot table. We're going to use that pivot table to help us quickly generate both a bar graph and a pie chart for that data, and you're going to include this in your Excel home or the project that we're going to assign, the handout questionnaire that you guys are going to include in your discussion post on the 19th. So if you go to the course homepage, you'll come to the lecture in week 2 where you find the link for the video and the presentation. We're going to open up the data set first that says CH Movie. It stands for Children's Movies. So we open that up in Excel. Here's our data set. There it is, right? Check out over here where it does say, nope. Check out the data set where we talk about things such as, there's a movie, right? Movie titles over here on the left-hand corner. I'm going to zoom in on this. We've got movie titles. Let me take this. Darn bar won't move. We've got this data set right here. We've got the movie titles over here. We've got the company. We've got the length of the movie, number of seconds of tobacco use in each movie, number of seconds of alcohol in each movie. Apparently, somebody had a lot of time to do this with. All right, we're going to create something called a pivot table in Excel. And so what do we have to know about a pivot table? A pivot table is the kind of table, it's a chart, in which we are able to take the data that we generate right here and show the data counted very quickly into a chart. Now we could do this, there's all kinds of commands that we can do and just manually count, but we're going to create this pivot chart using the variable company in our data set. We're going to do a count. We're going to come up with a frequency table. So here's what you do. First, let's go ahead and just highlight using your shift key and your arrow buttons, or you can use your mouse and just click and drag down. Select the data in this column. Right? Now when you select this data and copy this data, make sure that you only copy the data itself. And I'm going to put this into a brand new sheet. I'm going to do that because I don't want to, for some unforeseen reason, make a mistake and then lose this data later on if I need it. Right? So I'm going to come over here, and in column A, I'm just going to go ahead and paste the data. Right? Here it is, company data. Now, 2 rules for dealing with data in a pivot table. Rule number 1, all the data that you use must have a title, right? So you got to have a variable name, and that must be the very first entry in the very first row of whatever column you're dealing with. So if it doesn't have a title in that thing, you need to put one, right? So that is the variable name. Second rule is that you cannot have any blank data cells in your pivot table. So a mistake that people often make is that they say, okay, I'm going to select everything in column A, and they know this trick. They put the little cursor over column A and they go click. Here's the problem. All of the data that is in these blank cells will be thrown into your table, ruin your table. You don't want to do that. Here's what you do. Make sure that you're going to highlight the data. You're going to just take your cursor or your mouse, come down, stop at 51. And that's the only data that you highlight in order to use your pivot table. Okay. So now that I've highlighted my data, I'm going to go up here to the top of Excel. I'm going to go where it says Insert. And I'm going to go to the very far left, and you see a little title here that says Pivot Table. Well, that's what we're going to do. We're going to get a pivot table. So we're going to select Pivot Table. Now you've got all kinds of selections in the little pop-up table that comes up here, the pop-up menu. We want this to generate into a new worksheet. So just let it do what it's going to do right here. Let it select a table or range right here. This is our data range that we've selected. And then we're going to put it into the data that we want in our pivot table in a new worksheet. So when we do that, we hit OK. Boom. We get this little thing up here, right? Okay, so here's how you handle this. What we're going to do is we're going to very quickly create a frequency table by doing the following. First, click on the little radio button next to company with your mouse. And you'll notice that immediately we see on the left-hand side where it says company. So our companies, 20th Century Fox, Disney, MGM, Universal, Warner Brothers, right? You'll know if you've done it wrong if you see blank, right? You'll know that you've included some blank cells by accident and you'll have to start again. So be careful. All right. We want to count, right? So we want to get a column field. So I'm going to show you a column field where we're going to get a frequency count. Here's the way we're going to do it. Using your left mouse button, click on company from this little field up here in the top and drag that down to where it says columns, right? So you click on it, drag down to where it says columns. Oops, that's a wrong mistake. My apologies right here. Let's undo that. Get rid of that. Click on company. Now click on that and we're going to triple that into sum values. There we go. My apologies. We go down where it says sum values right here and look at what you got. A count. Wow, that was fast, right? Look at what we got right here. We got our count for 20th Century Fox, Disney, MGM, Warner Brothers, right? Disney certainly leads the field in animated movies here. All right. Well, that's pretty good. But this is just a frequency total, right? What if we wanted a relative frequency? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to leave our little cursor somewhere in the table right here, because if you click out of the table, all that just disappears. If you see that disappear, click back into your table with your cursor. Boom, there it is. Okay. We're going to take this company value and we're going to repeat the same steps. So we're going to click on company, left click with our mouse button, drag it down to where it says sum values. And this time, rather than doing a count, we're going to change that. So we're going to go down here and there's a little menu bar that we can click on. It says count of company. We're going to go to where it says value field settings. Click on that. And we're going to show the value, not as a, right now it does no calculation, it just counts it. We want to get a percentage of our grand total right here. So we click on percent of grand total, right? You go to show values as percent of grand total, hit OK. There it is. Check that out, right? Here's your percentages now of all of the movies, right? And we can rename this rather than count of company 2 if we wanted to. We could call this relative frequency, right? This is the count, right? This is our count of companies in there. This is a relative. This is our frequency. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to rename that. I'm going to call it frequency. There we go. So we've got frequency and we got relative frequency, right? This is our data for these movies. Very good, right? So now we've got the table. We want to use this data. Let's get rid of this relative frequency. Let's get rid of the frequency one, and let's just leave it with relative frequency, right? Relative frequency, because we're going to make up a relative frequency chart, and we're going to make a relative frequency pie chart. So let me show you how that's done. This is really, really easy. Probably, thank God for having something like Excel, right? Because doing this by hand is a pain. So it says we want to get a pie chart. Let's start with a pie chart. What we're going to do is we're going to go up here, and we see along the top ribbon right here, Pivot Table Tools. You'll see Analyze and Design. We're going to stick with Analyze, and we're going to go to where it says Pivot Chart. So if you click on Pivot Chart, you'll see that there's choices right here for a column chart, and it gives you a nice preview of that, right? Or a pie chart. Let's go to the pie chart, and you see right away there's a nice pie chart. Pick the one that goes straight on. I'll show you later on why we don't want to pick the other ones, because those could be misleading. So pick a pie chart and just hit OK. Suddenly generated is this pie chart. Now it's not a very good pie chart because in Excel, for whatever reason, they have not done anything where it's easy to read over this information, right? We would have to kind of figure out what was going on our own, and I don't know. I don't like that. So what I'm going to do is I want to show the percentages on my graph. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here to the middle, and you see where it says Pivot Chart Tools. So Analyze, Design, Format. Let's go to Design, and I want to change my pivot chart. So you'll see there's some quick layout choices right over here. I just want to use the quick layout, and you'll see one right away shows your percentages. You can show it a couple different ways right here, right? But you always want to show your percentages on there. So in this case, let's go ahead and show it this way. This is actually a really useful way of showing it. You know, they draw off to the sides. We might want to change where it says total. Right? And we're going to change that total. And we want to say relative frequencies of children's movies, or relative frequencies. Relative frequencies. And we can click and drag that title somewhere in the chart there. That makes it a little bit more useful to us. There we go. And that's how we make a pie chart very, very quickly using Excel. Let me show you how we make the bar chart. So let's go put our column back in our data right here. And this time we're going to make a pie chart. We're going to make a bar chart, right? We're going to go to Analyze, right up here in the Pivot Table Tools, right? Follow the ribbon over here. Go to Pivot Chart again. This time we're going to select the clustered column chart, right? That's our bar chart. To us, that's a bar chart. So we're going to select that and hit OK. Here we go. See, now we've got a relative frequency chart for our data. Once again, we can spread that out a little bit. We're going to call this relative frequency. Of children's movies. And some title like that, and voila, there it is, right? That's our bar chart. Now we can adjust our bar chart again. If we go to Design, you see there's a couple of quick layouts. For example, we could widen up those charts and show some of those bars. We can show it without any lines behind it. I don't know, I kind of like my lines behind it. I like the way this one shows up. Let's go ahead and stick with it. What I'm going to do here, you can change the color of you if you'd like. There's different formats right here. If you go to Format, for example, I go to Shape Fill. So I can fill it with orange, or I don't know, what's a good color for children's movies? Let's try green. I like green. There we go. So there's our total, right? Our relative frequency of children's movies. All right. So part of the assignment is to take this information and put it into Excel. So here's what we're going to do. All right, put it into our Microsoft Word questionnaire. So I'm going to copy my table. So I'll go ahead and I click on my table and I copy. I can hit copy right up here, or I can hit Control plus C at the same time and I copy that. I'm going to open up Word. Here it is. Problem 3A, we wanted to create a children's movie and create a frequency and relative frequency table. Bar chart. So we answer part A by just go ahead and copying and pasting our table. There it is, right? So you should have a relative frequency table in there. Now let's go back to Excel. Let's copy our pie chart. So we're going to copy that. I'm going to hit Control C on that. And if I go over to Word, I paste, right? I can paste. I can hit Control V. There we go. There's my relative frequency table, and I can pick that up and move it around in the if I want, right? Or let's go ahead and just go to the next line. Let's create our bar chart and throw that in there. So again, going to Excel, let's just copy our chart, right? We copy it. Make sure we copy this, right? Don't select just this. Select the whole thing. Copy, Control C, and then in Word, you can hit paste up here or Control V. There it is, right? There's your answers for this table, right? So you should have something that looks really, really similar to this when you post this bar chart. Okay, another demonstration coming up for histograms.